How do we make compost?
Well, it's really very simple, and you always want to keep it simple. You don't want to get too complicated, but basically you want to learn how to recycle everything in your property. If you're lucky like you have a yard, you have things that you can shred and you reuse. Everybody's got kitchen waste. So you want to learn how to make that newspapers, lots of things you can run right through your compost setup. It depends how much space you have, to what degree you do your composting. If you're lucky enough, you have a big yard, lots of space, you can make a pile or bins. Bins are 4x4. You want to make them 4x4 at least, so they heat up. If any smaller, they won't. Unfortunately, those little compost bins you buy now, they're tiny little things. They don't
Yeah.
get hot enough to really, but they do dry out and they do break down. But the reason why you want it to get hotter is because if you have diseased tomatoes, for example, you put them in there, you're going to pass the disease on. The heat breaks down the disease. Also, the heat breaks down the food, makes them more available to the microbes.
It cooks in there.
Right, it cooks.
So
Exactly
that
right.
was one I have in the garage that I haven't put together yet because my drum is,
It's kind of small.
that's really, it's too small, isn't it?
Right. And the best thing you could do with that is maybe dry things out, or you maybe turned it
Right.
into a little worm farm because it looks like you can grow worms in there. It just
Mm.
depends upon how you would drain it out, But most of them aren't any good because you have even the little tumblers, those little tumblers. They're mainly just to make you happy. You turn something into soil, you leave it there long enough, you're lucky it doesn't rot, right?
Right, that's what happens. It's not easy to make compost. It rots
It
unless you get
rots.
the right balance of dry, wet, nitrogen, hydrogen. I don't know.
Yes, it's carbon to nitrogen ratio and you don't have to worry about that in terms of you just mix them together and it starts to work. You go, you learn the right amount, which is basically green matter and brown matter. The two together will start cooking, but it doesn't have to. Ideally, you want to do it with other things involved when you do compost rather than just the green and the brown matter, because normally you want to have like some type of animal manure included in that process or some parts of
Right.
animals.
So then how do you know? Is it a third, a third, a third? Or is it a quarter, a quarter, a quarter? But
Well,
it's
right.
like chemistry.
Yeah, it is like chemistry, and my experience throughout the years has been it really depends on where I'm doing it. Like in Miami, Florida is very different here than Malibu, California, in terms of what I have to work with. So, and as to because in Miami I had access to all kinds of things, and so I was just throw them together. And over the years, I've learned how to produce it, make it cook. So
Right.
after a while, you say add this, you add that, and it cooks. You see, but I always had so many different things I would be throwing in there. To
Different manures.
Right, and that's what I learned. The most interesting thing about it is rather than people make compost with no animal manure and they're missing the most important thing about compost.
Right. Can people just poop in it?
No, no, I would not because, well, normally you could if you was making it hot enough to get rid of all diseases and stuff. So if you don't, then it's a problem. The city would not like you making compost with human waste. That's another thing they think it's a health issue because people don't know how to make compost in the first place. I mean, that's the
Right.
reason, right? That's the reason why a lot of cities, a lot of places, cities, when they sell compost, it'll say no manure in it, right?
Right. But
Because
you really
people are
need the
really
manure.
right. They're very careful about that. But in truth is, you want to make compost with a wide variety of. That's
Go.
why animals are good. If you're on a farm, you have all these animals. They make the best compost because they use all the different kinds of animal manures, which has all the different kinds of microbes in it to use.
Hopefully we'll find a llama farm. I know
Oh yeah,
there's in Topanga and
oh
around.
yeah,
So you could do the Malibu Gold and use that vintage label,
oh
and
yeah.
people could just buy it because it's so much. People, it's not easy. I mean,
You
it's
can
not
go
easy.
driving. You can go out for a ride with me into the countryside, and we're going to come up with a couple of really cool llama farms. They're all out there.
Yeah, that'll be great.
It's even a local zoo not too far away from here.
Right.
It's
Well,
up
Topanga. I mean, there's
right. There's also one up Deer Creek, all up there somewhere in that area. They have a little small animal farm, all the
you
different
got
kinds of animals.
pasture. isn't his last name Lamas or something?
Something like that, right? Has all the llamas and what are they? Alpacas and but there's a really cool place on Mulholland, and I'm betting the guy is still there because he makes $150,000 a year per llama just to show in contest.
Oh, does he shear them for their beautiful?
Yeah, he doesn't kill them or anything, and then he sells the hair or the fur or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
right. But
wow.
mainly he makes the money for show and tell. It takes him to contests,
Right.
and
Well,
he
yeah,
has
we need to do that because we are going to be in production very soon. You're moving before the year's up.
sure. And then
Back
also
in
going to start.
Malibu.
Then we're also going to start making more worm juice,
Right.
and
I'm not very good at worm farming.
I'll show you how to take a gallon of worm juice and turn it into really 15 gallons amazing of the same stuff. I'm going to do that also in my little uh, laboratory. And
Laboratory.
that's going to really help in terms of when we go out to do customers' places, because the more we can flood the people's home, not the homes, I was going to say home, but property with the microbes, the faster the microbes will start surviving on their
Right, because
place.
God knows where they're getting their compost. Like where do your customers get it?
Right now, it's a hedgepodge of most of the time they if they're lucky they get like there's a compost. There are a couple of good composts on the market that you can get, but they're not really live. Some of them are to some
No,
degree.
I've never seen a compost in burlap to keep it alive, except for an old friend of ours. Everyone else has it in plastic.
Right.
So,
So that's
which
no
I would
good.
imagine kills it, right?
Exactly right. It's just like
But
you
they
had
put
told me you
holes
went
in
to
it. They put holes in it, those teeny
right,
little holes.
right.
Does this help keep the microbes alive in there or
That's
no?
exactly right. They breathe. They breathe. It gives them a little longer lifetime to survive in that environment. But even then, every week, every day you leave them in there, they die, more of them die.
Right, like I have 4 bags out there for a week now that have,
Right, and they're soaked from the rain, and they're good. They're a good product. They have the minerals and stuff like that, but the microbes are like pretty much flooded out and
eh,
gone. It's a whole different world to deal with living organisms that you don't see.
that's why everyone's gonna have to get their compost from you. We better have a
Right.
big pile.
And they can take a little bit of that compost, which has the worm juice in and all that stuff, and actually make a tea to spray to do their plants with and do all kinds of stuff to make more.
Right,
Like I'm going to show you how you can do that in your garage because you're going to get this beer making machine and you're going to make 15 gallons of amazing tea to use everywhere on your property, from your plants to everything. And the more you put it on your lawn, right, the more you put it in your vegetable garden. And the next thing we'll do is actually start planting worms because you're doing really well when you can put some worms in the ground and they survive,
right, right.
right?
Yeah,
Then there's something that's what's go work that is working. So that's the goal, is to get the soil back to life. You can see how when it rains, all the water runs down it, nothing soaks into the ground. I have a saying: the more roots in the ground, right? The more roots in the ground, the better.
right,
It makes a big difference, even if it's a weed, because we call it weeds, but it's not really a weed. It's a plant telling you that the soil is deficient in that mineral. If you were to test the weed will be rich in the mineral that's deficient in your soil that's growing it.
so you're saying weeds are good.
We are the only ones that call them weeds. A weed doesn't think it's a weed. Has a specific job. Their job is to bring the mineral down from the earth. Could have deep roots. They bring it when they die. They give it back, and so you can test the weed like dandelions are rich in iron.
Right. Oh, I
So
don't.
that tells you that dandelion will only grow in an environment with this trace mineral deficient of iron. And the dandelion comes like deep roots, pulls up all the iron into the body, takes it up to the plant, then dies. Bingo, the iron goes back again. Or you
Oh,
can make a tea from it. What I would do is make dandelion tea and spray everything with it. Cool way to get rid of iron deficiency.
would you grow dandelions that way? Would it
Yeah,
make dandelions grow?
yeah, dandelions are excellent to have in your property. Nice root systems. Nothing eats them. You can make dandelion coffee from it. You can make a tea from it. All the plants you can make a tea, and they all have an individual biology that goes with that plant. When the roots grow, what makes the dandelion pull up iron is the biology of the dandelion that grows with the biology. When you make a tea out of it, you can also help all the other plants take on some of that biology.
I do like roasted dandelion tea. It's a good
Right.
for your liver too.
Exactly. It's very good for your whole body. It's rich in iron, and you can make a tea out of it. It's very good for your eyes. Anything that you need iron for, your whole body needs it, and the plants do too.
Wow, that's amazing, Andy. That's so cool. So, like, let's say Andrea gets about 20 bags of compost and mixes it with a truckload of soil. You can't just pour it on that
No, no. So
dirt.
no, it doesn't. That's a problem too. When the gardeners buy, just dump it on there and walk away. So yeah, and like you come
Yeah,
back and go, well,
I feel like you would need a electronic pole digger.
well, you have to be. The problem is that there's so many roots there. You can't really do that. The only real way to do it is the way I would do it. The way I used to do it in my youth. You go in there, you start digging away. You're actually looking for the roots. You actually no, you go very gently. You look for the roots. There's a name for it where you actually expose the roots. A lot of plants don't like it, don't mind it. If you dig away that hard stuff and expose the roots without destroying it, without damaging it, and then you bring a mellow if you was to put compost straight on there, it would kill it. So you want to do inoculate it with your soil. Normally you say inoculate compost with your local soil. That soil that we took out from underneath the roots, we would blend it in with the compost and a certain amount of real soil. You want to imitate what should be there with some kind of decent soil. You put that back down and pack it back underneath the roots and everything, and you'll find, and then if you do the watering, control the watering, uh, introduce it with more microbes on a regular basis, that particular area, the roots will grow faster, the whole area, the soil will turn. I tell people that the microbes build these really cool condos because the soil is the different layers. It's basically different microbes in each layer, like a condo. But that takes a while, the soil structure to build. So that's why we spray it. And that's why you're dumping more soil in there because that's her problem. That's her old problem. Oh, I did new soil, 9 years ago? Okay. So for 9 years of getting with this city chemical water, chemical fertilizers, whatever it is, there's no soil. There's just whatever is left.
Fire,
Excuse me?
not to mention the huge fire
Right.
that
That,
burned
that came
down her
through.
house.
Right. Right. So that's her real only solution is to do that because uh, it's just utilizing what we do, which basically we're feeding the plants, we're giving them the food they need, we're trying to get them to relax, but they're really stressed out because their root systems hurt, right? And that's not working, and then you got to have all this rain, so it floods it. The water sitting in water again, water runs down. It's a real mess, and they need to. That's why we put rocks around it, something to hold it together, keep the soil together. Because if you just dump soil, even if you pat it down, all that rain will come from wherever, it's just wash it away, or the winds will come and blow it away. You have to be very creative in how to keep that soil there. She has to learn by a shredder. All that plants that she has there, she can run it to a shredder and count in the grass. I bet you they're hauling their grass clippings away. So she's taking everything away that really needs to stay and start breaking down.
So would you chip if you had a shredder, like I'm gonna have all my trees trimmed, you you don't just put down all that shredding material. Don't you mix it into a to make a compost first?
Right, exactly. Well, there are a couple of ways to do it. You can actually do that, but then you have to work with it as you do. It's called A Lazy Man's Guide to Gardening. That's what he promoted in his book. Yeah, you can take the grass clippings, put it down, leaves, put it down, but you have to add some things to that to help it break down, inoculate it with the microbes, add a little bit of soil, a few other things to it, and you'd layer it. Eventually, it all breaks down really, really nice. The other way would be no, you make compost from it. You have a place where you make compost in part of your property, and everything goes through that and gets blended in and comes out the other end, and you goes right back into the property again.
Right.
And that's what you do. Even your food waste should be treated a little separately because you really want it to dry it out, dry the food out so it doesn't rot on you. So then you can run it through your compost setup. That's what those tumblers are really good for. They dry your food out. And you can take that, run it into your compost. But if you take the raw food over there, it's very difficult to get that to decompose. So the animals, something will find it, because you can't turn it over. And then it takes a long. If you were making a pile, a big pile, and you had time, like that's what happened in Puerto Rico. They have a giant pile. They just throw food on or whatever on there. It takes forever, but who cares? You take it from the other end. That's a different story. But if you have something that you really can't have a massive pile of
Right.
stuff cooking in your backyard.
You cannot.
Right. So you take your food and you process it separately. So you let it dry out. Ideally, you have a little worm farm going. So you take the juices. Because even then, though, when you do the worm farm, you're going to find that once or twice every few years, everything has to come out. All the worms have to come out. You have to do house cleaning. You have this amazing compost, which is even better than any compost you can ever make. And that's like really, really rich. You can actually put it back in different places in the yard. Ideally, what you want to do is once we get the compost and the worm going, we have vertical little worm farms built into your bin. You put one in your on your raised bed. You put one underneath a tree over there somewhere, and they have little. So instead of the clay drain pipes, you can make them out of wood. A tiny, small little thing goes in the ground and a cap on it. And in there, you put your worms compost in there, and you even have a. You don't have to worry about watering, but that whole area will start growing faster because it has all these microbes. And you can even open the top, throw some more in, just close it up, and you'll find when next time you open up, it's going to be full of mycelium, it's going to be full of worms, all kinds of stuff going there. One of the things I want to do here is get a microscope so you can see.
Right. So could you test compost to make sure it's alive or not alive?
Sure, right. There's lots of different ways that we can do that. The easiest, look under a microscope. So the microscope would be hooked into the computer. You'll be able to see, and you can see these little guys running around going, "There's something going on in there, right?" And
Yeah.
then you can tell. And then you can tell. You can see what's going on in our spray, the liquid that we make.
Right.
See, what I want to do is I want to make it get a gallon of the liquid, go look under the microscope, take a picture of it,
Hmm.
run it through the beer making machine, and then take a gallon of that and then take a look at the microscope, take a picture of it. And I dare you to tell the difference in terms of what you see.
I mean, well, there'll be more with the bubbler, like suds of
Well,
soap,
you won't. The necessary won't be more because remember you're putting it. I mean, we're making like 15 gallons of it
right?
instead of a gallon. So if you normally dump a gallon of 15 gallon, you're diluting it. But when you add the bubbles to it, you can actually have it at the same strength as a gallon one.
Got it.
Matter of fact, the longer you make it, you can make it even stronger because what we do is we take that 15 gallons, we dump it into. Well, I can take that 15 gallons and dump into 100 gallons and end up with 100 gallons of this really cool stuff. But what I like to do is take that 1 gallon, dump it into the 100 gallons, run it through the bubblers, and we have 100 gallons of it. That's why
Right.
we have a bubbler on the machine,
Hmm.
right? You see, and if you forget about it, you can literally leave it on overnight. But then
The
you will have
bubbler?
100 gallons of this amazing stuff that you would have to basically take a cup of that, put in a gallon of water, and water with it,
And wow, that's incredible. It's such great info.
right? And that's why it has to be used when because we're going to be selling it. I think I like calling Invisible Gardener's secret sauce. I kind of like that.
I wait till the new labels are
I can show the labels if we want to look at them.
no, wait
No,
till it's on the product. Don't and everybody can inquire with the Invisible Gardener by going to your inquiry page at invisiblegardener.com. Gardener, Gardener. I told the banker how to spell it. He still spelled it wrong after I wrote it out.
I know.
Invisiblegardener.com, and you can buy the book, Don't Panic, It's Organic. And you could ask Andy any question, and you could set up a virtual house call. So you could have Andy look at your property from anywhere you are.
And it does work. That I've been in business. I've been in business since 1970, and I've learned that this is absolutely amazing. Once you start learning to do this, you'll be able to cure any disease, control any pest.
We are signing off, Invisible Gardener.
Oh, cool. Great. Great. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out. And we'll see you guys next week. We'll do a whole series of stuff coming up all the time now. So come to the website, sign up for a newsletter. Hang on. We'll be right back. Okay. Take care. Bye.
Bye.